Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. This is BRN AM for Monday, May 6th, 2024. And our top story today, the key to attracting public sector workers is pay, not pensions. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Jen Sidorova of Reason Foundation. Jen, so great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It is. And I want to start with just some a basic question. And it seems like states are trying to attract new workers, police, firefighters, emergency personnel. How important is compensation or just pay versus the traditional defined benefit pension plan, which which is traditionally offered, pun intended, as a retirement benefit for a lot of these individuals?
So I do academic research as part of Pension Integrity Project at Reason, and I also do it as part of Georgia Tech. As part of that research that I found, the literature review that I did, I found that according to the surveys, especially a few surveys recently conducted by the Mission Square Institute, they show that workers do not necessarily put pensions as a top priority when they make decisions about either joining workforce or staying in the workforce. And they much rather see higher salaries, maybe better health insurance, better maternal leave, better benefits like this, better work-life balance. That has been a trend ever since the past 5 years or so. Work-life balance has really been showing up for a lot of workers. And that's true not just for the public sector workers, but all across the nation. And even if there's a need to recruit more workers to the public sector force, it should be made a priority. These high compensation, work-life balance, health insurance, maternal leave, other benefits should be made a priority if we want to recruit people from the private sector to the public sector force.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I didn't mean to cut off your closing statement. Did that surprise you at all, that when you looked at the data, that these other things are more of a priority? Because traditionally, and I come from the retirement industry, traditionally everyone points to it's the DB plan. But a lot of these workers today, my understanding is they don't stay and work at the government entity for 30, 35 years like they used to do it back when I first was coming out of college and into the workforce.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is very clear that the trend, especially among young workers, has changed, right? So it has been coming for about 10 to 15 years now too. It's been more and more evident. It is that we see it in the public sector. We see retention and recruitment. We just see a lack, almost like not enough workforce in the public sector, because with time this trend has realized in the public sector workforce just now. I think there's two important trends to see here. First of all, is that two important trends to kind of highlight. First of all, is that indeed Gen Z and millennials are not staying on job as long, and just satisfaction with their work and being excited about their work, making a difference. These are a lot more important to them than anything else. Now, salary is still important, obviously, but what is different between salary and pensions is compensation right now versus deferred compensation. And pensions and even retirement benefits are deferred compensation. And frequently, workers are just not, we just don't see that they are willing to sacrifice the pay right now for being paid sometime in the future in the form of defined benefit payout. So that's one trend, is just they're not staying as long. And then the second one is that realistically, and this has been, I've seen it in my literature review, is that workers are frequently not informed about the level of the benefits that they have. They sometimes know that they do have a pension, but they really frequently cannot put themselves into the correct pension plan if they're given options. And there's just lack of knowledge and awareness of how good those benefits can be. Or sometimes I've seen anecdotal stories from workers who just would forget to opt in into a pension plan, and they would just go years without even knowing that they're not. And there's all those sorts of nuances about, we really have to do in public sector, we really have to do a better job educating workers about the kind of benefits that they have. So two things, again, it's just the Gen Z and millennials are not staying in the workplace as long, and the fact that our workers are not quite as knowledgeable as we wish they were about the pension benefits. And those trends that's what puts pension benefits just low in the priority list for workers, and especially young workers.
And Jen, one last question before we go to a commercial break. So, what's the lesson here for state legislators who typically have oversight? So there's always, a committee that has oversight of the plan and its investments, but state legislatures typically take up the pension issue during the typical state legislature sessions. What's the message here for them when it comes to hiring that police officer, that firefighter, emergency personnel, or even administrative staff?
Well, I think the most prevalent trend that we see right now is that there's a kind of a push for pension enhancement or switching back from defined benefit to defined contribution plan. All those trends that governments are trying to hastily put together some sort of pension enhancement, a pension reform. They're really misguided because, first of all, and it's some of them are, like in New York, we have a pension enhancement that's being pushed, and it only switching the defined benefit formula from 5 years to 5 years highest salary to 3-year highest salary. It's a very nuanced. It's like, I don't think anybody, as a teacher or as a public sector workers, you're not going to make a decision about staying in the workforce or joining the workforce, the public sector workforce, based on such minute change. But it adds like $4 billion in pension debt to the state of New York. So things like these, the government should really analyze how much benefit are they getting from enhancing pensions, if they consider that, versus how much more are they going into debt. Because ultimately, as we talked prior, that's not what the public sector workers necessarily need. Probably putting more effort into enhancing their non-traditional benefits like health insurance, maternal leave, work-life balance, and salaries is a better this is where they should put their energy into, instead of trying to kind of go back in time, going back to traditional benefits, going back to what we had before, and we know that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. Well, Jen, as I said, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about that traditional pension and attracting new workers to your workforce in the public sector. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network. Jen, thanks so much for staying with us. Really appreciate you hanging around for segment number 2 this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, this is a fun conversation, important conversation. I want to go back to something you said and around education. And it seems to me, anecdotally, and even before talking with you, that we don't do a good job in the retirement industry or just as employers in talking about the benefits and especially retirement benefits. How important would you say education is about just basic education about what your retirement benefit is? How do you enroll? How do you participate? How important is that?
I think there's two things here. So first of all, education is definitely important, but before we dive into this, I think you can structure a plan the way that you auto enroll your workers into some plan, right? Then you can always give them an option to opt out or opt in, but by default, auto enrollment is what we see is the best strategy, just to ensure that there is some benefit, some basic benefit always there present for public sector workers. And when it goes to now, let's switch to educating people and kind of helping them making an educated decision about their pension and retirement plans, right? So, so far, um, there isn't a secret source or secret formula to how we educate participants in about the benefits of their pension plan. But the only other, I work in cybersecurity and cybersecurity policy, and that's my area of research at Georgia Tech. And in cybersecurity, what we do to educate people about that is that we have trainings every year, sometimes even every semester, about what can be done. And it's usually educational videos, and they're kind of entertaining. And we switch it around. We make it entertaining one semester, and then kind of like more standard the other. But it's always there, right? Students and faculty cannot move on to their work without going through it. And I think something like that we could do with pension benefits. Maybe not as frequent as with cyber, because the impact there is kind of not as stark, but we should be putting more effort into prioritizing that through educational videos, materials, and doing it very early in when they join in the workforce. Another thing that we should do with these public sector workers is that we right now to really inform the government and really good public policy, we're lacking data about how individuals are making decisions. So when we enroll public sector workers, we really should survey them on how did they make a decision to join the workforce? How much did pension benefits play into this? Because right now, there's a lot of speculation about how pension benefits can help recruit public sector workers, but there's no data, there's no systematic data or studies that have been done that prove that. It's only anecdotal evidence. And it's really, really wrong to make a decision that's worth billions of dollars based on some anecdotal evidence. Just because some administrator in a city or a state has a feeling that they're having a hard time recruiting public sector workers is not grounds for us to make decisions, again, worth billions of dollars, right? So more data on that is important. So that's what we should push: surveying people when they enter the workforce to make sure we know how much pensions play into their decision. And then once they're there, educating them through videos and keeping it going, making sure they receive the information over and over, and they're aware of how much they are going to be getting when they retire. So maybe they also have another savings account, or they have other investments. So they're very proactive and very aware of what's going to happen once they retire.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would tend to agree with you. Jen, last question. You talked about education at employment or during employment. Again, very important to understand all the benefits. And by the way, it's not just retirement benefits, it's healthcare, it's vacation and time off, all that kind of stuff. But what about going even further back? College, high school, junior high school, just learning the basics, the basic elements of financial education, but that would also include some of the things that we're talking about this morning. So some of the benefits that are available. What does that all mean?
Yeah, I think starting very early in high school or even in middle school and teaching students about investment and how money should be making you more money all the time. It should be a priority. And handling personal finances better, even learning basic things about how to get a mortgage, things like that is important. We're not prioritizing that enough in our public sector education. That's all I got to say. Like, really, that's just what we don't do, and we should be doing. It seems obvious, and it seems like common sense to be doing that. Another thing, I think, even for the administrators and bureaucrats who work in public pensions and administrators and administrations of the states and cities, they should also be educating themselves more. For example, the governing piece that I wrote last week, that came out in Governing last week, about how pay plays a role, but not so much pensions. This is something that I did during literature, while doing a literature review, while reading academic studies about pensions. And I've learned that enhancing pensions does not necessarily make people stay. It actually sometimes pushes people away. And this is information that's available on like Google Scholar. It's publicly available information. So having this thirst and drive for learning is important, not only in high school for students, but also for administrators, people who make public policy decisions.
Yeah,
It really should be a lifelong thing.
absolutely. And it's behavior, as you're indicating, behavior changes whether you're a Gen Xer like myself or a younger person like a millennial or a Gen Zer. Jen, we're going to have to leave it there. Great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It was great talking to you.
That wraps up this episode of BRNAM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to? Then drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, then visit our website. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRNAM. We'll have a very special guest and another important topic. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.